Hello everyone, I hope that you're doing amazing wherever you are in the world. My name is Shikha and I welcome you to my channel. As always, I'm really grateful that you're listening, subscribing and commenting. I really appreciate the support. And in this one I wanted to speak to you a little bit about being imperfect and ADHD, people with ADHD or people who are INFJs, how difficult it is, as you already might know, to be imperfect, to be perceived as imperfect by others. It is our perfectionist nature that gets in the way of a lot of the different things we do, and I've done videos on this many times before. One of the hacks I've kind of found for myself that worked really well when I was trying to get over this perfectionist nature of myself is to make mistakes. Now, of course, it's not easy to make mistakes. It's not like you can just go out there and make mistakes and the world's going to be all right with that. You know, you're going to get into trouble. But there are a couple of places where you can easily, as an adult, make mistakes and people are not going to look at you askance. Like, they're not going to be like, hey, what are you doing? And one of the places that is really, really great for this, that you can actually access anywhere in the world, is improv. I'm pretty sure wherever you live in the world, there'll probably be beginner improv groups that get together and do improv together. Improv is basically the short form for improvisation, which is you do something different, you do something creative, out of the blue, out of your imagination, without any practice, without any preamble, without any kind of planning. So, I mean, you can do a little bit of planning in the beginning as saying, hey, so I'm going to be a milkmaid and you're going to be a farmer or something like that. You know, like you can do that kind of planning, but you don't plan what you're going to say. You don't plan how you're going to play out the improv. It happens as it happens, spontaneously and just as it does. And the first couple of times I did improv, it was a life-threatening experience for me. My heart was beating so fast I could barely breathe. I was in so much fear and so much distress that I was thinking to myself, why am I doing this to myself? As you can imagine, the more I did it, the more I got used to making mistakes. Because that was the main thing that I was afraid of, is that I would do something and it would be a mistake. Funnily enough, there are no mistakes in improv, except not accepting what the other person is saying. So if they say, hey, so you're a milkmaid, right? You have to say yes, and what about you? You never say, no, actually I'm not a milkmaid, what are you talking about? So it's always yes and. That is the basic rule of improv. Yes, and what about you? Or yes, yeah, and then where are we going today? So you always say yes to the person. That's also a really good exercise for us as people with ADHD or INFJs, because we have a tendency to say no to things. I've noticed this about myself. I'm always like in the it's not a negative thing. It's just that we're more skeptical, we're more cynical. We want to be idealistic, but we know that the world is imperfect, and so we always end up saying no to things, also because we're introverts. In improv, it's a completely different experience. You always have to say yes to people. Yes, let's go. Yes, let's do that. Yes. And so that practice of saying yes and making mistakes, or there being no mistakes, but making mistakes and being okay, because the world isn't ending if you do say no by mistake. The world's not going to end. The improv might end, that scene might end, but that's okay, because you'll have another scene coming up, and it's all for fun anyways. And I have noticed my perfectionist nature really got a bashing out of doing improv. It was very hard at first, as I said. I was in pain physically because I was like, what am I doing? Why am I here? Constantly in fear, constantly afraid that I'm going to make a mistake. People are going to laugh at me. Interestingly enough, people did laugh at me, but not because they were laughing at me, but because they were laughing at my jokes. And they were laughing with me because, we were having so much fun. It was just such a great exercise. And I highly recommend this for everyone, really, but particularly people who have a perfectionist nature, who are trying to get over it. Really trying to make mistakes is the best way to do it. And they tell you to do sales, because sales, like, you're constantly getting rejected, constantly making mistakes in that regard, constantly in front of people. But most people can't get into sales. Like, it's a very hard profession to get into. Also, maybe you already work and you don't need another job, right? So making mistakes in other ways, and improv is the safest place for you as an adult to make mistakes, to be okay with it, to learn how to make mistakes, to learn how to do things and realize there are no repercussions mostly, and to realize you're just human, as is everyone else. And one of the biggest things I've learned from this experience of improv, and I'm still doing it, is that everyone else is as afraid or nervous as you are. Even if they've been doing it for a long time, expert improvisers are still pretty nervous about the improvisation. They don't know how it's going to go, and it is, you're in front of people, you're performing, but you have no idea, you have no script, you're just making it up on the go. It can be a little bit scary, and so everyone's nervous, everyone's going into it and doing things, everyone's laughing together, everyone's having fun, and it just is a really good hack, in my opinion, to get over yourself, to get over the seriousness of being, to get over how you live in the world. If you're living in a way that you're like, this is way too strict, way too strenuous, way too restricted, then you do improv and you open yourself up and you get yourself out of that box and you explore and you play. And that kind of play with no repercussions, no negative consequences, nothing happens, nothing negative happens if the improvisation scene doesn't go well, which is actually saying a lot, because there is no bad improvisation scenes, really. If you are looking at it from improv, what is improv? It is creativity. So how can creativity be going wrong? It is just going as it's going. There's nothing wrong or right with it. It is just it, right? And so every improvisation scene is. It isn't good, it isn't bad, it is the way it is. It is going as it's supposed to. You're playing it, you're doing it, and that's it. And so just doing it, just being in the moment, being in the scene, practicing with your friends or your colleagues or whoever you're doing it with. It is a mind-blowing experience, of course, but it's also a freeing experience. And little by little, the more you do it, you'll understand that really every mistake there are no real mistakes if you really think about it. But if you do think you've made a mistake, everything is fixable. There are no dire consequences to anything that you're doing, really, unless you're saving someone's life. But even then, you do the best you can, and that's it, right? Obviously, doctors do the best they can, and that's all they can do. You can't fight with the world. And so I really, really, really implore you to try improv. Just try it, and you'll see a major difference in your life. I hope this makes sense. If you have any questions, let me know, and I shall see you in the next one.